Hello there. This is MD. Here with you on SaskiYano. Here we go again. We are in a new After Effects tutorial. In this tutorial, you are going to learn the basics of masks. Let me show you some basic examples. And you can follow along by opening up the masks. EP file. If I take my text layer here and I want to use a mask on this to only show part of the layer, what I can do is grab the rectangle tool and click and drag. And I can put a mask on this layer. Right now, the mask is set to add, which you can see right down here. And so you can see everything in the layer. That's the bounding box layer. Because the mask is larger than my layer, you can see everything inside this mask. If I change the mask's mode to something like subtract, it does hopefully what you would expect. The opposite of add. If add is adding the things inside the mask, subtract is doing the exact opposite. So once you've created your mask, you can adjust it however you want to. And you can do something like create a basic text transition with a mask using a little bit of animation. You can move the CTI to 1 second. And then in the mask properties, toggle on the keyframe for mask path. Then bring the CTI back to the beginning of the comp. And then you can double click on the mask and just squish it to the left here. And if you play this, you see you have this kind of horizontal whip, which is pretty cool. Now there's lots of other ways to do this. But that's just a really simple example of using a mask. Let me show you another example. I'm gonna create a new composition. I'll call it Solid Masks. I'm gonna use the HDTV 1080-24 preset. It's set to 5 seconds long. That's totally fine. And I'm gonna click OK. Now what I wanna do is I want to create a solid. So I can do that a number of ways. I can right click down here and choose New Solid. That will create a solid. Or you can come up here to the menu and choose Layer, New Solid. It's also Ctrl Y on the keyboard. I'm gonna pick a color here. Maybe something like orange. Like that. Sounds good. Now this time, I'm going to create a mask with the pen tool. I'm gonna create a few different shapes. So, right now, I have 4 different masks on this solid. If you hit M on the keyboard, that'll bring up those masks. Then you can toggle down the properties for each one. Or you can hit MM. And that will expand all of the mask properties for all of the masks you have on your layer. Now my default, when you create a new mask, it is set to add. But I want to show you what happens when you change the mask mode here. Let's set the second one to subtract. Maybe the third one to intersect. And the fourth one to difference. You can see, you can take that same basic set of mask shapes and you get a lot of different looks and variations just by changing the different mask modes. And this is also dependent on their stacking orders. If you change the stacking order here, you're going to see that the effect is different because the way these masks work is they affect things that are above them in the stack. I'm gonna jump over to my drone shot comp and show you a few more examples of how you might use masks in actual projects. Let's say for example, you want to punch up this drone shot with a little bit of color and a vignette. Lots of different ways to do that. I'm gonna show you one way using masks. Again, if you do not have this drone shot, you can download it from the links down below. Or if you want, You can pull in any piece of footage into a comp and follow along best you can. I come here to my project panel. Actually already have a black solid, which is what I'm looking for. I can pull that down in my comp. There's no need to make a second black solid. I'll just reuse this one. What I can do is I can grab one of the shapes here and I can click and drag. Maybe make a rectangle here. That'll work fine. And what I want to do is set this mask to subtract. And that'll create a nice big net here. Because he is not very even. But it doesn't really matter. And then if I press F on the keyboard, that'll bring up the mask feather. Then I can feather this out. Finally, I can change the transfer mode, the blending mode, to something like classic color burn. And if you don't see the transfer control pane, you can have this toggle switches /mode button down here. Or use F4 on the keyboard. Then if I hit T on the keyboard, I can adjust the opacity. And just maybe wind that down a little bit. Because it's a little heavy-ended. Now I can also give us a nice color punch here. By grabbing this orange solid I created earlier and bringing this down. I'll put that below my black solid. Then I can grab the pen tool. You just make a giant triangle. Be something like that. Doesn't matter too much. Maybe something like that. Then I'm gonna hit F again on the keyboard to bring up a feather. I was gonna feather this out quite a bit. Then I'll change the blending mode to something like soft light or maybe even vivid light. Well, looks pretty cool. Then I'll hit T on the keyboard, bring up opacity, maybe dial that effect back just a hair. And then it would be cool to have another color here. So, maybe I'll just make another solid. And I'll pick this time kind of a bright blue. Or maybe a purple. And I'll do the same thing. I'll make just a giant triangle with the pen tool. Something like that, bring it below my black solid vignette, which I can rename by hitting enter on the keyboard to vignette. Then I will hit F to bring the feather that out a good amount. Maybe set something like soft light, then hit T on the keyboard. Add works pretty well. Just turn that down a little bit. Adjust that size. That's pretty cool. We went from this boring to that not too bad. May not be to your taste, but it's just to show you some of the things you can do with masks. Alright. Coming up in the next tutorial, you're gonna get a quick peek at shape layers and how you can use them to make some really cool looking stuff. To check that out. Finally, we are done for today. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and leave your comment down below in the comments section. Also, if you want to learn more, take a look at our first channel, Everything PS. See you next time. Bye.